Rosann, we've known each other for 3 decades.
Yes, a long time.
And you have been a professional counselor.
As you have been a professional counselor, how many people have we known in Hong Kong?
Yes, quite a lot.
So many different people.
And so many changes.
And that's why we want to think about women now and women then, and how women have changed over these years.
That must be very interesting.
Yes.
And it covered different generations.
Always.
Well, if they're interested in what we are talking about, how are they going to find us?
They're going to find us Tuesday night, 9 o'clock, PsychoAlchemy. We are Women Now and Then.
See you there. Okay, so we are back. It's like we have so much to talk about the 50s and 60s. Maybe we are quite experienced at that.
Yes. 50s, you definitely feel the energy.
Yes.
60s, you begin to see that some things take longer than you thought. That run to the beauty shop and back takes a little bit longer. You're not running quite so much. But it's a judicious decisions about where you use your physical energy. 50s, you're still pretty powerful.
Yes.
60s, it begins.
Yes.
Begins just very gently.
Yeah.
The endurance is a little bit less.
Right. And I think at that age, if you manage to learn how to set your priorities,
Yes.
that will definitely help. I think women, before you reach 60s, you tend to think that you are an octopus, right? You can
That's
handle
right.
everything on your
That's
own.
right.
But once you reach 60, you realize you just cannot remember so many things.
Yes.
But if you are managed to have a good habit, you know where to put your keys,
Yes.
and you know where you usually put your important credit card statement, that is very important.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't rely so much on your memory, you rely more on a system. So once you
Yes.
reach 60s, you will be okay. And another thing is when you reach 60, I would say make life simple. That's another thing. About cross culture, if now the women can manage to live up to 60, 70, 80, 90, a lot of Chinese women, because we are lucky, we have a much younger face, right?
Yes.
So they look at the mirror thinking, oh, I still look like 40. So you think you are 40, but actually you are 60.
Yes.
I think that is another issue that a lot of Chinese women are facing these days.
Yeah.
You know my mom, right? My mom is in her
course.
80s.
80s, yes.
But if for people that don't know her, they bump into her, will always guess that, oh, Mrs. Wong, you should be around 65. And you know my mom actually was so happy
Yes.
deep down
Yes,
inside
yes,
herself,
yes.
right? But the thing is, I always said to Mom, yes, you look very young. You are really blessed by such a good, lovely face. But you have to remember, physically, your body is 82.
Yes.
Right? You have to know it yourself,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so let's move on to once you reach maybe mid 60s, 70s, how is it like?
The beginning to slow down, but let me pick up on your priorities.
Yes,
theme.
yes.
Because somewhere in the 60s, you decide you really need to tell those children they have got to move out. Or another thing that happens is you and George start talking again, that you agree now that we're older, now that the kids have grown up, now that the kids have moved away, whatever stage you're at, these are some of the changes. Now, don't expect George to go, oh, I'm so glad to be talking about change. Men do not like to talk about changes generally. It's the women who initiate those conversations. But they also, the slowing down enables you to hear more, sense more, and so food habits begin to be examined more carefully.
Yes.
Because it's also the onset of some life stage ailments and diseases, weight gain, high cholesterol, diabetes. Oh, the Hong Kong hospital authorities always telling us about lifestyle diseases. So women then begin to take it more seriously because they know in their 60s and into their 70s they can see that they're moving more slowly.
Yes.
They can see that George is moving more slowly. So then time has to be put into the medical checkups. What do you do annually? What do you do every 5 years?
Yes.
Should you be taking vitamin supplements?
Yes.
So the discussions go on about health. And then what happens is George begins to see she's beginning to make sense. So there's a little bit more calm conversations with, compared to the 50s and early 60s, when he was trying to just let me have all my time with you. I don't want to be in the house with you. It is something. So there's this general slowing down and shifting of priorities. And as the priorities shift, some people find they really like to go to movies.
Oh, yes.
Now, you can go to movies early in the morning at a much reduced price. So that's one of the activities that women go with their girlfriends or go with their partner and then go have yum cha.
Yeah.
Some get into an exercise group. Those groups are great.
Yeah.
Because it pulls the morale up.
Yes.
Well, if Sally and George are going, then we're going to go too. So let's do that.
And in this city, I see a lot of 60s couple. They would suddenly turn religious.
Yes.
The reason why, if you go to some sort of either Buddhist group or you go to a Christian fellowship, you see a lot of people of your age.
Yes.
And that's good. Even my mom joined a Catholic group, and I think she had such a good time, because these people retire in their mid-50s or early 60s, still strong. And at that time, they want to serve the society. So I see more and more people of that age, if the women are willing to go to some sort of religious group, either Buddhism, Christian, or whatever, they are now more willing to do volunteer work.
Yes.
Right. I don't know. Mainly because Hong Kong is such a busy city.
Yeah.
When you were young, when you are struggling, and when you are climbing the corporate ladder, there's no way you can give up your work and go to like a Saturday afternoon volunteer work. But once you retire, you realize that you have a lot of time, and you are smart enough to contribute to the society.
Yes.
So actually, that is another thing. Once we live up to 60 or even older, we should look into religion or maybe some sort of volunteer work, community work, and that's a good time.
It's good also. It's a philosophy of life.
Yes, yes.
You're a grandparent, you might be a great grandparent. If not for your own children, you look at society as a whole and you think, I have lived 7 decades. People in their 80s have lived 7. How has the world changed? Now, I find that some grandmothers, and even ones not grandmothers, they start their own diaries. They start remembering what was, they're writing more. And if they're not writing, they're putting together scrapbooks of things that they want their grandchildren to know.
Oh, yes.
And this becomes a life of generativity, because we know we're more than halfway through. We know society tells us the world's changing. We now have all the new technology, so we could make recordings of it, but people like to have paper and pencil and scrapbooks and notebooks and what have you. But there's this want to record life. One way or another, we want to record how our life has been. That certainly happens in the 80s, because you see on the horizon, sweetheart, if you've lived to 83, 85, 87, you know you're not going to live 20 years more. So there are things you want your grandchildren to know, or your great-grandchildren to know, or things that you felt as a child that you see young people today don't feel, like saving money. That is one thing.
Yeah.
So many 80-year-old women knew that they had to save money. But you look at our 30-year-olds, they're going to be working forever. Are they saving any money? Why are the children living in your house or someone else's house? They're not thinking about saving money. But the 80-year-old thinks about that. She thinks about her own health, her spouse's health. And what comes in the 80s is the recognition that your friends might be younger people, because a lot of your peers are starting to die off.
Yes. Yeah.
So you mourn
Yeah.
close friends.
Mm-hmm.
You may mourn the death of your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And you begin to count. Women have shown me this. They used to have so many friends. But now,
Yeah.
I have only 7 friends, Rosann.
Because
Because they're all gone. And you can either become very sad, close yourself in, or you have those 7 friends who are your peers. Now, how can you get this? I get this question. How can you make friends with people who are in their 50s? They're so young. In their 50s, they're so young.
Yeah. Oh, this part I really have
Yes.
some good suggestions. What my mom did, and I think she did it beautifully.
Yeah.
She her friendliness always helped her to meet new friends. If she joined a club, she would not just hang around with her friends. She actually know all the staff of that club.
Wow.
Yeah, and some
my
of, yeah,
goodness.
yeah. Sometimes when these people quit their job and they go to another restaurant to work, they usually will tell my mom, "Oh, by the way, Mrs. Wong, I'm going to this restaurant to work. Next time you go to that restaurant." Yeah. So the thing is, don't think that if you are 80s, people will want to stay away from you. Actually, people of that age have certain wisdom. People will also want to
Yes.
learn from you. My mom had a lot of younger friends in their 50s and 60s, and she is also good at her neighborhood
Right.
thing.
Yes.
Like, remember we said when we were living in the village, what's good about women, they just hang around in the well, cleaning their
Yeah.
clothes, and they talk to each other.
Yes.
But now with apartments, you sort of have a separation.
Oh, yes.
But somehow, if you're willing to open the door, and if you're willing to greet people during
Yeah.
the long travel from 32nd floor to ground floor and say hello, after a while you meet up with some new friends.
will.
My mom was so successful in her 80s. All her neighbors like her. They even asked her to go down to there's some sort of clubhouse meeting,
Yes.
a function, Halloween, autumn festival, and the neighbor would just
Knock on the door.
knock on the door and say, "Mrs. Wong, why don't you come down?" My mom said, "Oh, these are for kids. Halloween's not for me."
Ah.
No, you do come down and sit and play with the kids. So you can imagine
Wow.
is how you see yourself. And my mom was actually even sadder than what you. I think she has 7 friends. All her
Yeah.
classmates, all her friends had passed away
They
in the
pass
last.
away.
Right.
They pass away.
So you got to keep on making new friends.
And you have to have that idea that you want to do that. That's so hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And along with that, this
Uh-huh.
extended lifespan, it's not only you have fewer friends, but you must learn to ask for help.
Yes.
And our strong women, our independent women, our women
Yes.
who have coordinated so much in their lifetimes,
Mm-hmm.
they feel a little bit bad. Should they be hiring a part-time helper in the house? Should they be using a cane,
The cane.
to walk? Should they get some bars put up in the bathroom? One has to admit to the world, I'm not as physically strong, and I'm a little bit sure getting out of the shower in the bath. Should I get that? So asking for help for 60, almost 70 years, she's been independent and strong. Now she must learn to ask for help.
Yes.
That's a it's not one time. It happens over a series of years. Ask for help with this. Come on. As one of my daughters said to me, "Mom, you had problems. You never used to wear glasses. Now you wear glasses." So a little bit of help is a little bit of help.
Yes.
It comes in stages. How do you need the help?
Well, but as you mentioned, I can imagine it's so hard for a woman who has all her life been offering help and support to other people, and when she reached 80, suddenly she has to ask for help. Maybe it's not even in her language. She might feel a little bit embarrassed
Yes.
and maybe intruding in other people's life. And
Yes.
I know you for so many years, you never asked for help, right? So it's
It will
some
come.
learning.
It will come.
Yeah, yeah.
It will come.
Yeah. And in the last 2 weeks from now,
Mm-hmm.
from then, actually we were talking about a movie, The Wife.
Yes,
Yeah,
The
right.
Wife.
Yeah, and
The
I know
Wife.
that you recently watched it.
Oh,
And I think the leading actress, Glenn Close,
Glenn
is
Close.
playing a role of a woman in her 70s, right?
I think so. I
Yeah,
think she must be in her 70s.
at least, right? So her
Yes.
her kids are all grown
Our
up.
kids
right?
are quite grown up,
Mm.
quite independent.
Right, right.
Yeah. And the
mm,
love story. Is it a
Yeah.
love story?
Yeah. Well, I think it's so interesting when we are talking about identity.
Yeah.
This movie is actually quite a how do I say, more like a wrap up of what we have to say about women.
Ah,
Growing
yeah.
up from 20, 30, 40, 50, and now she's in her 70s, and she's trying to get back her identity.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think about this? Woman supporting husband all her life, and now up to a point you really want to show the world you are somebody. You are important. So what do you think about it?
Oh, Dorothy, it's one of the challenges of women's lives. You know, when the scenes of her in university and she's writing her own, then there's the appeal of a man. Tell me one woman who has not suffered from, he's wonderful. He will fulfill me.
Yes, yes.
I am the. She becomes in love, and you cannot talk logic with any woman who thinks she's in love.
Especially
Logic
in the
does
20s,
not-
right?
No. But as she gets older,
Mm-hmm.
she begins to think, well, there's a great scene of he wants to have sex with her. She's not so interested. And finally, she just puts her hands back and she says, okay. So he's pretty much having sex with a doll because she's not reacting. But it meant so much to him. And at one time, it meant so much to her. So there's this attraction, maddening attraction that some women have sometimes, not all. They sometimes have it more than once in their life, sometimes only once in their life, sometimes not at all. But when that attraction comes, it is so hard to think about the self
yeah.
because you want to be enclosed in his arms.
The union is so
You
important.
want to be
Yeah.
part of the and making him a star is something you want to do.
Yes, yes.
She was not forced to do his writing, to edit his works, to help him. She did it out of love.
out of love. Yes,
Out
yes.
of love when she was young.
Yeah, yeah. And that's also her identity then, right? A
Abs-
very supportive wife.
Yes.
And also given that culture at that time, women had very little opportunity.
Yes.
So even though this movie we have introduced you 2 weeks ago, but I still insist if you still have time, please go to see The Wife. It's so good. But now it's time for you to tell us, what book you have been.
Oh, the book.
Yeah,
well,
the
let's
book.
move. The Wife in Her 70s. And this is a relatively new book. It's the 100-Year Life. Now, I said 120, but let's go for 100 years. There are several books now available that have to do with the extended lifespan. The lifespan extends because of biology and public health and good medication. That's for sure. You're going to live longer. But what's so challenging is all the changes in technology now. So our life is different. You live in an apartment, but you can do FaceTime with
Yeah.
your children who are on 2 other continents.
Yes, yes.
Or your very good friend from childhood. So get yourself, if you're a reader, get yourself any one of the books that are now available. Go to a bookstore, go to a library, visit your online, whoever you get your books from, and look for books on 100-year life. This particular book is written by a psychologist and an economist. The psychologist looks at how the 100 years feels to the person. The economist is saying, look at our society.
Yeah.
What kind of jobs do we have? Can people be employed? And among the things they discuss is that life can no longer be 3 stages: education, work, retirement. But over this now extended lifespan, we must talk about several transitions. Education to work, then maybe back to education and a different job. Then maybe back to some other kind of training and a different job. And I say that because all women need more money. They can't just say, I'll have this job and then I'll retire. The extended lifespan means longer days and more money. So I want you to go look for a book on living beyond the years you expect. Life, the 100-year life. This book.
And that's how we conclude this episode, because
Yes.
Rosann already tell you what we are going to talk about next week, right? Obviously, it's money
It's
issue.
money.
So see you next week.